Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective. With pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Thursday, December 30th, Ian Cameron with you, ready to break down the Thursday NHL slate as we approach the brand new year of 2022, fast approaching. Tonight in the NHL, of course, a 7-game slate on tap for this NHL card. And the beauty of tonight is we have no postponed games, if you can believe it. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. And obviously tomorrow we have 3 that have been postponed, but at least for tonight, we have not had any games altered because of COVID-19 issues or postponements. So good to see the schedule intact tonight across the NHL. So we'll get right to it. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. We've got Florida minus 150, home favorites in this game, total 6.5. It's up from 6 is where it opened. And now we're seeing pretty much 6.5 with this total across the board right now. The Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning have both played 1 game since the break. Tampa Bay a couple nights ago against the Montreal Canadiens. One of many games since the break that have been sloppy play, some suspect defensive play, goaltending maybe a little bit off kilter a little bit, and we certainly saw signs of that the other night. Tampa Bay with a 5-4 win over the Montreal Canadiens in overtime. In that game, of course, it was Maxime Lagacé getting the start in goal that night for Tampa Bay, Samuel Montembeault for Montreal. So we were all over, no pun intended, the first period over. We like the full game over, multiple Ice Guys on that show a couple of days ago on Tuesday, and it ended up working out well. And yesterday, 4-3 for the Florida Panthers as they took down the New York Rangers in their first game following the break, noting that there was 11 straight meetings between the two teams had gone over the total, and another one last night between the Panthers and Rangers in a 4-3 Florida win in that game. The Florida Panthers, of course, didn't play well going into the break, so a much-needed win for them coming out of the break, and we'll see how they fare here tonight, second of back-to-back games for them. So a little bit of a slight rest advantage for Tampa Bay, but these back-to-backs coming off a long break shouldn't be a big deal. In this kind of situation, when you see teams on a back-to-back like Florida is here, and plus Florida's not even traveling, they get to stay right at home for this game tonight against Tampa Bay. It's not a big deal because they basically had, they had 13 days off going into the last night's game against the New York Rangers. So all things considered, for a second night of back-to-back games, this team should still be fairly well rested when it's all said and done. But clearly we understand why the total's been bet up a little bit, 6 here to 6.5. There's question marks who's going to be in net. We don't have confirmation, believe it or not, yet from either side who's going to be in net in this game. We know with Tampa Bay, they've still got Andrei Vasilevsky and Brian Elliott, of course. They've been in COVID protocol all week. Doesn't look like any of them are going to be activated or cleared in time for this game. So we're either looking at Maxime Lagacé for a second straight game, or you've got to go to Hugo Alnefelt in net here, 20 years old for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think they'll be doing that. So it's probably going to be Lagacé for them. The question now for Florida is, after getting the start last night was Bobrovsky, you either play him on a back-to-back, you play Spencer Knight, who's been recalled from the AHL, who's actually struggled this season, especially lately. 3.42 goals against average and a save percentage below 900. He's had a tough season here in his sophomore year. So you either start him, you start Bobrovsky on a back-to-back, which is not ideal, or you go with Jonas Johansson, who you've just recently acquired the last few weeks. So there's all kinds of question marks who Florida's going to go in net, and I don't think I like any option. Even Bobrovsky, if they come back with him, it's back-to-back. That's never ideal. And then if you go with Knight, he's had a bit of a downturn, especially lately. He's really struggled and fought the puck a little bit. And Jonas Johansson, we know we don't have a whole lot of confidence in him based on his track record in recent years. So you understand why the total went from 6 to 6.5. Either way, you've got question marks galore with both sides, probably from a goaltending standpoint tonight. So I do like the over a little bit. The one concern is Tampa and Florida this year, 2 unders, and they've actually trended that way in recent head-to-head meetings, but I may look past that just given the situation we're seeing tonight with these two about to collide. We've got Andrew and we've got his dog in the background joining the show as well. We heard him there as well. But he's getting bigger. It's amazing. I just saw one of the recent pictures you had of your dog. It's amazing how quickly, that breed of dog grows. It grows quickly. They start off as this small little miniature pup, and they just grow quickly and rapidly right before your eyes. But we got Andrew McInnis with us. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Ian. Another good day yesterday, so happy to cash another best bet on the show. Canucks keep it going, man. 7 straight for them.
It was a thriller.
I think I'd make that my best bet and ride the hot wave.
Yep.
Yesterday is one of those days where, it's 1:30 a.m. local time for me here in the East Coast, and I'm sweating out not one, but 2 overtime games. Philadelphia Flyers, money line for me. Vancouver Canucks, money line. And, I would have been happy with a split, overtime. You know how it is. So it was nice to have, and it wasn't just, bad goals either. 2 nice goals there. But, I hear the dog still barking, man. It's crazy because, the older they get, he's growing so fast. And the funny thing is you start looking back at pictures and you're, reminiscing and how excited it was when we first got him and how little he was. But the older he gets, the better behaved he is and the more he listens to you. So it's kind of like you don't want him to grow up, but you also want him to get more trained. As I say that, though, he's barking. But, last night was a really interesting night, I thought, because there were a lot of first period overs. And then the game we saw some better defense throughout the rest of the game. So I said yesterday on the show that Alex is usually the guy with all the first period overs. But one bet that you and I were both on that I think both of us were complaining about more than we usually would have, or at least to ourselves, maybe 1 or 2 tweets. But how about that Oilers Blues game, man? That's tough. This is why I hate 6.5. Plenty of chances, 3 goals in the first period. Unfortunately, we couldn't get there. But, that's what stopped me from a 4-0 day yesterday. And it was rough. But, beggars can't be choosers. I just thought we'd really get to 7 there.
That's just all things considered. You're going to have some situations like that from time to time. But what doesn't mean it was a bad bet or a bad decision.
For sure.
It's just an unfortunate outcome. And you got to separate the two. You got to know what's a bad bet with a losing result and a good bet with a losing result. You got to be able to separate those two because you just can't say, oh, that lost. What a bad bet that was. No, you definitely have to categorize them. No doubt about that. And that was a tough one if you had the Oilers Blues over. Lots of opportunity to score, a lot of time with the empty net. And then as soon as they iced the puck with the net empty, Edmonton, you knew they were going to have to put Mike Smith back in net with 20 seconds. You knew that's it. No shot now. So tough one there. No doubt about that. Andrew, in terms of a side, I didn't mention a side. This game's tricky from a side. I don't know if I want to lay about 50 with Florida on a back-to-back. In this situation, Tampa probably would be the side I'd lean, and I'm more veering toward dogs in these first few days returning from the break than favorites. But I don't think I'll bet a side. I'm definitely got the over circled. Certainly the first period over, and Chris Otto's pointed it out in the chat. The first period, both teams to score, which is something I've been betting a lot more lately in some of these games. Plus 160 makes a ton of sense. You definitely think there's at least a reasonable opportunity for these two teams to both find the back of the net in the opening 20 minutes of the game tonight. So that first period, both teams to score at a nice plus return definitely appeals to me in the Lightning Panthers game. Andrew, Tampa Bay, Florida.
That's a real cool bet that you've actually kind of opened my eyes to. That, it's one thing to get a first period over. The next thing to get a first period, both teams to score, kind of a soccer style bet there. I'll be honest, Ian, a couple angles to look at here. One thing with Florida, is this a team that we only bet in the third period now? Is this a team that's going to continue to do that? Because I'll tell you one thing. If they end up doing this stuff at the end of the year and they go into the playoffs, you don't get a chance to come back always in the third period. Third period is usually a time in the playoffs that teams hold their leads. You cannot afford to do that. So Chris Otto, he'll be our guy. Chris, if you have some of these stats here for us for, the third period overs for Florida, I know you tweet them out, but if you could tell us in the live chat, because this team, I know it's juiced up and we always get, a lot of heavy juice for these totals with periods and full games with them, Ian, but I'm not impressed with last night. It's funny because I said yesterday on the show, I have a slight lean here towards Florida in regulation. And you and I were both wondering, why the hell is the price the way it is? I'm happy I didn't play it. Despite the fact that won, I'm happy I didn't end up on that play because I would have just been mad at myself, stressing that out the entire game. Because, they just put themselves in a hole or they just, they make games stressful, and then they end up having a good performance kind of at the end of the game. So I'm not really impressed with what I've seen out of them. Tampa Bay, look, they're a team that we've all liked that can bounce back. We've been betting them bouncing back from years. And people might be asking me, well, bounce back from what? They won. I think we all know that the Montreal Rocket pretty much almost beat that team despite, a collapse from their part. At the end, Corey Perry ties it up, and then Jake Evans falls and leaves it a really good, easy overtime winner for Tampa Bay. So even though they won, you and I can both agree Tampa Bay is coming off a bad performance. The Florida Panthers, second half of a back-to-back, doesn't mean much to me. The back-to-back, like you said, coming off also a mediocre performance here. I'm staying off this game, Ian. Not much for me here. I might look for an in-game spot, but there's not much I can put my money on here. If anything, I'm leaning towards Tampa, but the goaltending is what really kind of takes me off it. So that's kind of why I'm laying off here. We'll probably get involved in-game, but let's see. Chris Otto, Tampa Bay and Florida, third period over, 13-7 last 10 combined. Florida's on an 8-2 run last 10. Yeah, see, and that's the crazy thing is that it's hard for us to sit here pre-game and say, take the third period over. We can, and there's lots of books that offer that, but especially if we get that second period, 2-1 or something like that, even 3-1, I'll probably be on that third period over. But this is an example, Ian, that I always stress. It's a good game to watch. There's plenty of games that might be less competitive that I have a lot better of betting options to present.
And Florida definitely has less COVID protocol issues right now than Tampa. I mean, other than Achari, Ulevi, and Owen Tippett, who are still in protocol for Florida, they got pretty much everybody else available to them. That's not the case, obviously, for Tampa Bay with Vasilevsky and Elliott, their top two goalies on the protocol list, along with Andre Schuster, defenseman, Eric Chernak, defenseman, Taylor Radish, developed in as a good young player here for this team, Anthony Cirelli as well. On the COVID list for them, Cal Foote, the defenseman, and of course Kucherov, of course out long term as he's been all year, but he is skating again for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Nikita Kucherov. I know it's Andrew's favorite player after what he said in the Stanley Cup final last year, but definitely Nikita Kucherov, slowly but surely nearing a return for this Tampa Bay Lightning team.
I say with the utmost respect, Ian. We'll see what happens next year. Maybe he goes on the IR again for another 8 months and then comes back in the playoffs. If it happens 3 times in a row, then I'll be questioning it. But I know he actually has a real injury this year. But I don't know,
he does. No doubt about that. You talk about a game that made me all kinds of up and down in emotions. Nashville last night against Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And Nashville taking on Columbus tonight. Even money, both sides, 5.5 the total. Thank goodness I also put something on Nashville team total, which was good. We talked about it, the over 2.5. It got there. We figured they could lose the game and still get to 3 goals. And that's exactly what happened. But boy, they gave Washington a real impressive battle back from a bad start for the Nashville Predators in that game. Rally to tie the game before Washington gets the late go-ahead goal and then puts it away with the empty net goal, 5-3 victory for Washington. So Nashville, second of back-to-backs. Again, be careful with the second of back-to-backs and just automatically fading a team. You've been off for 12 days. You shouldn't be tired on the second of back-to-back games here in these spots.
I'll tell you what, Ian, I'll take a team on a back-to-back over a team that hasn't played so far.
Yeah, in this situation, yes, I would agree with that because back-to-back, you've been off for 12 days. You should be full of energy still. And the team that hasn't played a game yet, definitely a situation where you're worried, are they going to be sharp? And for Columbus, that's the situation here, 2 weeks that they've been off between games. I'm not playing the side in this game, but I wouldn't be looking at Columbus here necessarily. We'll see how now the good news for Columbus is it looks like Patrick Laine, who's actually missed quite a bit of time for them, is going to be back. Still some key absences, Sissons and Yossi for Nashville. Yossi's the one they really miss. I worry about Nashville's ability to win without Yossi. Yossi's just been such a tower of power at both ends of the ice on the blue line, plays so many minutes in every situation. And he didn't obviously play last night. They lose. I'm interested to see what they're like without him moving forward. Elvis Merzlikins confirmed in net. When you look at Columbus, their main absences are Korpisalo, Dean Kukin, the defenseman, Gavin Bayreuther, the blue liner as well. And Bjorkstrand's the big one for Columbus. He's in COVID protocol, won't come back here for this game. So it's interesting to see how this one turns out. But I like the over here. 3 straight overs in the head-to-head between these two teams since May 3rd. 4-3, 4-2, 6-0 final scores. 5.5 is the total here. Columbus has certainly not been great defensively for much of the year. And they ended went into the break cashing overs in 5 of their last 6 games as well. Have to factor that in. Even Nashville, their last 10 games, 6 of them have gone over the total. Total's only 5.5. So that's what I like here. Preds and Jackets over 5.5. Andrew, what do you like? Nashville, Columbus.
I'm right there with you. I think it was December 16th that they haven't played since. That's a long time here for the Blue Jackets. I mean, let me correct. Yeah, I think that's December 16th. And back in the day, we used to classify them as a dead nut under team. There was a period of time where every single game was involved with them, was 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 at the tops. And that's changed. Same thing with Nashville. They're getting production. We saw what happened yesterday. That's gutsy, man. To any team to go down 3-0 and just like that to score 3 unanswered goals, you have to tip your hat. You have to respect that. And that's what we saw with Nashville yesterday. So, it's funny we kind of segue into this game in the rotation order after I said to you that, hey, I would take a team that has played already on a back-to-back versus a team that hasn't. It would also be Nashville or pass for me in this game, to be honest with you. But I expect some goals on both ends. I love the quotes I'm seeing from Patrick Laine. I don't love quotes all the time because I think sometimes these guys and coaches, players can just make up what they say. And I think handicappers read too much into it. But with what we're seeing out of Columbus, all these forwards, they're ready to go. They're pumped up. They're ready to play some hockey here. And Nashville, I'm not so sure they can correct the defensive mistakes they made yesterday against Capitals and just won overnight here. I think at worst we get 6 goals here. I think we see a pretty prominent game. This is one of those ones where I could see a fast start as well. So what I've decided I might do, sorry, and just one sec, one thing I might do with a lot of these, because yesterday I was kind of upset with myself for so long I was going low volume, Ian. I've kind of been open with everybody, our viewership. We always say we all do this together about my volume. I've gone back a little bit with higher volume, but like we said in the show yesterday, I've lowered the units when I do that. And so what I've kind of been doing is, like, if I do want to double dip here with a first period full game, I'll just do a half and half unit. Yeah. That's what I'd like to do, because that way you're not putting all kinds of stress in the full game. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes you're going to get, like, look what happened yesterday in the Philadelphia Flyers game. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that first period overhit.
And the game stayed under.
The game stayed under. So that will happen sometimes. More often than not, though, if the first period hits, the full game does. But stuff like that can happen.
Yeah. And then you had a couple games, I think at least one anyway. I'm trying to remember which one, where I actually stayed under in the first period and went over for the full game. So that's always why it's sometimes good to split it up. And end up, sometimes going a little half and half action here. And by the way, yes, it was a very slot. And that's the thing you lose with the OC too, the defensive side of it. And sloppy as hell last night against Wash. Now, it was their first game after the break. They might be a little tidier tonight in their own zone, but still, I trust UC Saros a lot more to clean up those defensive miscues than potentially David Riddick tonight for the Nashville Predators, who might be in net with this being a back-to-back. And 3.1 goals against average, .880 save percentage. Those aren't great numbers. This is not a goalie I've had a great deal of confidence in the last couple of years. He gave up 3 goals to a pedestrian Islander team the last start he made. So another reason why I think we could get over 5.5 here, Nashville, Columbus. I'm going to assume Riddick is in net. Not confirmed, but projected to be the starting goalie tonight for Nashville in this game. Montreal, sorry, not the Laval Rocket. You're right, the Montreal Rocket right now tonight in this game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina minus 400. That's why they're such a big favorite. 6 the total. Look, it could be Montreal. It could be Carolina against a Pee-wee team and me on it, and I still wouldn't lay minus 400 with Carolina. And it's just not the price that I'm looking to lay in an NHL game. It's just not going to happen. And even the puck line, is no bargain, which right now is minus 1.5, minus 170 to lay a goal and a half here with Carolina in this game. So you got to get creative if you're going to get involved and bet a game like this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Carolina team total, lay a little juice, minus 150, but I'm going to take that over 3.5 in this game tonight. I certainly think they get to 4 goals against this Montreal team. We saw it against Tampa Bay. And that's the thing when you've got a lineup littered with youth, littered with inexperience, AHL call-ups left and right, your defensive communication is a big part of playing defense in an NHL game. Communication, knowing where certain players are going to be on the ice at all times, sorting out coverages when you don't have the puck. Montreal looked totally lost at times against Tampa Bay in that regard the other night. And that's, a lot of it due to the youth factor on this team right now and the inexperience and the fact that you've got so many of your regulars that are out. I mean, it's endless for this team. I mean, it's a laundry list. It's almost like a rap sheet almost. Toffoli and Petrie and Lehkonen and Mike Hoffman and Joel Edmondson, Christian Dvorak, Ben Sherratt, Paul Byron, Yoel Armia, Josh Anderson, Jake Allen, Chris Weidman, even Caden Primo, one of their depth goalies, is now on the COVID-19 protocol list. I mean, it's just absolutely endless for Montreal right now. And unfortunately for them, they don't have no other options, man. You got to stick this Sam Montembeault in net, who's been a sieve, couldn't stop a beach ball all season for this team. And you just got to keep putting him in net here for Montreal. And now you got to face a Carolina team that went into the break playing some good hockey. Now it's their first game coming out of the break. So I expect them maybe to be a little bit sloppy. And look, Antti Raanta is likely going to be the guy in net tonight for them. And he hasn't been as good as Freddie Anderson for this team. So I think it's possible that we see Montreal find the back of the net. This is another over for me for the full game, but I'm doubling up on this one. Full game over 5.5, but also taking that Carolina team total over 3.5 as well at -150. You look at Montreal, you gave up 5 to Tampa, 5 to Pittsburgh, 4 to St. Louis during this recent rough stretch where they've had a lot of the absences. And again, Montembeault in net, it's not been pretty for him. You look at recent starts, he's given up 5 to Tampa, 4 to Buffalo, 3 to Nashville, 4 to Boston. He's had trouble just keeping the puck out of his net. I mean, that's all there is to it. And Carolina certainly asking them to get 4. Doesn't seem like it's asking too much. And really, if they're going to win this game, you think there's a good chance they get to 4 goals. So Hurricanes team total over and full game over for me. Andrew, Montreal Rocket, not Canadians. With this iteration of the lineup they're putting out there, it's the Montreal Rocket and the Carolina Hurricanes. Andrew, what do you think about this one?
And I saw a pretty funny thing online. It was the Laval Rocket roster right now. If you go on their website, Ian, I think there's about, I think there's like 14 people listed on that roster, maybe less than that, because they're all up playing with the Canadians, which makes it that much funnier. But, in this game, look, I just got to say, and I'm not trying to go against what you said, Ian, but I will say this. You're right about everything you said about Montembeault, but we saw what happened with Grubauer when he was on the Avalanche, man. And then we saw with him he doesn't have the best help. I mean, Corey, I was not surprised by any means the Canadians blew their lead. I was not shocked at all. Like, I was almost sitting there waiting for it to happen. And then I felt guilty and like it was my fault that they got scored on because I knew it was going to happen.
Right.
And then you look at Jake Evans, Brett Kulak turning the puck over, and then Jake Evans falling in front of his own net. So that's 2 goals, right, out of the 5. So that would have taken it back to 3 goals if you take those 2 goals away. That's not bad. 3 goals for a goalie like Sam Montembeault. So we have to, he has not had a good year, but it's also the defenseman and the forward. But I'm sure you can agree with that.
It's poor, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, what you're saying is not inaccurate. I mean, the stats are right in front of his name. We can't list all the bad stuff that happened to the defenseman in front of him. Those are the stats in front of him. I got to mention this because as much as I want to troll the fact that Carolina paid $6.1 million for Kotkaniemi, I feel like he will get up for the game today. I feel like you can look at anytime point or even plus 320 goal score for Kotkaniemi. He did score kind of a cheeky tip the last time they played. But, not only are the Montreal Canadiens having a bad season already, the COVID talk's just getting even worse. They just announced that there's 2 or 3 more guys that had it, that have it now. And they couldn't even, who was it? Eric Engels. He couldn't even really release who that was. Yeah. But I feel bad for a guy like Caden Primo. Do you see what happened? So he has to stay in his hotel. I think it was for the isolating period, 5 or 10 days, and then go back home. Not even to Montreal, to like Jersey or something, and then go back to Quebec. So that's really rough. But yeah, I'm right there on the same page as you with the Carolina team total over. But I might look at the full game as well, because this is the thing. I said on several shows I did in that first game for Montreal with the Montreal Rocket, as we're calling them,
They play with
really
energy
well.
and spirit.
They play with energy and spirit. But the question is, can you do it twice in a row?
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like what happens when a backup is in net after a star attendee goes out with an injury. You rally around that, right? But can they do it again? I'm just not so sure. Where's Nick Suzuki been? I don't know where he's been. Cole Caufield, I haven't really said anything bad about him all year long, but somebody has to say it because, I mean, I guess everybody else besides me has been saying it. We need something out of him. We need him to shoot the puck more and stop being so passive. Drouin, he was the most impressive player for me, but, all Swedish, no finish with Jonathan Drouin. Doesn't matter how many plays you create if you can't finish goals. So, same type of thing for me. I'll be cheering on the Canadians as a fan. I feel like if they play with the same tempo and heart they did in that last game against Tampa, they can compete here. But I feel like we will see some goals. So probably the same thing. I'm just deciding, Ian, to be honest with you, between the Carolina team total and the full game total here. But I feel like we'll see some goals. This might be one of those ones, again, where I said yesterday I don't love double dipping, but I kind of had a change of heart last night, and I just realized money management-wise and bankroll-wise, just split it up. Make it smaller units, first period over and the full game. And that way, it's pretty much like you're risking the exact same amount, but just on two wagers.
Yeah, definitely. Melissa's got a great thought in the chat with the combo bet, Carolina money line and over 5.5. Carolina to win and over 5.5, which is plus 115. I might bet that for a little bit. I don't know necessarily if I want to tie in Carolina winning to it. That's why I kind of like the over 3.5 and over 5.5 split better.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if that's the
Carolina
day to do
should win, but the Montreal team was plucky the other night. And if not for a couple of friggin' miscues, and they've got the game under their belt, Carolina doesn't following the break. So, but I still like it, and I would definitely still not say don't bet that Carolina to win and over 5.5, especially when you're getting plus 115, which is a great price.
I'm not sure if today's the day to do that, just because, like you said, the price of Carolina. You might as well just make those bets that you're talking about with the team total and for the over, because Melissa, I like that bet usually, but I just think with that same game parlay, you're just not getting good enough odds. How pissed would you be if Carolina wins 4-1?
Yeah, which is always what the concern you have. Whereas 4-1, you get the team total, even if you lose the full game over. So you go 1-1 instead of 0-1, right?
Yeah.
That's basically the thinking. So
Yeah.
you break even or close to it instead of losing. So, but yeah, I don't mind it. I still like that though. Carolina to win and over 5.5 here in this game. And by the way, you're right about Suzuki. I mean, pointless now in no points in 5 straight games. It's not good enough, especially when you got nothing but youth around this team right now. He's now one of the veterans, believe it or not. He's now one of the guys that you got to count on if you're Montreal. And he doesn't have a point in 5 straight games, -2 in each of the last 3 games. And then you've got Cole Caufield, 1 point in the last 6 games. And it's funny because they had Button on TSN the other day talking about it, that Suzuki's got to be better. So Craig Button. So it's a situation where right now, they got to get more from those 2 guys in particular right now, Caufield and Suzuki for Montreal offensively, especially with the patchwork lineup around them. Buffalo, New York Islanders. We got the Islanders -200 to -210, -220 in some spots as well. Home favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. Sabres, I took a shot with them, best bet on the show yesterday. They let me down, but boy, they made it interesting. They battled back, down 2-0, tie it up, down 4-2, get the 4-3 goal. Really threatened pretty good to tie it late, but they fall short 4-3 in that game. Still don't fault the bet. I mean, Buffalo at that price against a Devils team that had lost 6 in a row, but at the same time, you can't give up 42 shots, and like the Buffalo Sabres did, Luukkonen had to face a lot of rubber in that game, and it was pretty difficult for him when it was all said and done. It was a busy night for him in between the pipes. So now it's Buffalo on the second night of back-to-back games here, taking on the Islanders, playing their first game after a break. It's going to be fascinating to monitor this, because here's another game where you've got one team that's played since the break and the other team hasn't, the New York Islanders. So who's got the advantage? I'm sure as hell ain't laying -200 with the New York Islanders, a team that, hasn't played great hockey. They've got 3-7 in their last 10 games. For the overall year, they're 8-18, which is just not very good. And even their home record here in their brand new building, they're just 2-8 on home ice. And, they've still got some concerns in terms of COVID-19. Certainly Buffalo does. When you're talking about Dylan Cousins, Colin Miller, the young defenseman who's been pretty good since he's been called up, Jacob Bryson's on the COVID list, Zemgus Girgensson on the COVID list, Robert Hagg, the defenseman, Vinny Hinostroza, the left winger, Casey Middlestat, Drake Caggiula. I mean, it's definitely a Buffalo team that's got their share of COVID ravaging the team. But the New York Islanders, Kyle Palmieri is on it. You got Brock Nelson, you've got Zach Parise, you've got Cal Clutterbuck, Oliver Wahlstrom, the talented young forward, Anthony Beauvillier on the COVID protocol list as well. So there's a lot of absences here for the Islanders. You combine that with a team that's had tough times winning games consistently, and this is not at all a price range I'm interested in with the Islanders. You could see Malcolm Subban in net here because it is a back-to-back situation for the Sabres after Luukkonen played last night. Probably doubtful we would see him in net in this game tonight. So maybe could you look at the Islanders, maybe find it getting over 3.5 potentially, but they're not the type of offense I like banking on. Even against Buffalo to score 4 goals consistently for me in a game-by-game basis. So it's probably a game I'm going to pass. What do you think, Andrew? Sabres, Islanders?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing I've kind of been following here. I'm going to continue. It's day 3 now of us back in action with the NHL. I'm looking at the first period over. I've got that locked in at -110, which with these first period overs lately, and we've been getting -120, 25, 30 even with some of these. So I like that price, first of all. But secondly, I think with an Islanders team, again, they're another team that we know the style of hockey they'd like to play in. The fact of the matter is, will they play in that style, at least out the gate? So this is one of those ones I am not doing the half and half first period full game. This is one where it's just the first period here for me. And Buffalo, look, first of all, Ian, I tailed you on that in a little mini. I always make a few round robin parlays or a few 3-teamers, 4-teamers just for fun every now and then on bigger slates. And I got mad at myself because I realized on the show yesterday, I said, well, I think the smart thing for us to do would be to take the over 3.5 team total with Buffalo. And I had that selected and I was like, no, I'm going to go for better value. And I put the money line in that. And, they had a great effort. They looked good, man. Like I respect your call on that because you know what? This is a team that I think has a brighter future. I was doing a show earlier with someone and they said they're a lot higher on Buffalo than many other people are. And when you look at the guys they picked up, Tuck made an immediate impact. Everyone seemed to like props on him yesterday. Goaltending hasn't been too bad. Thompson, they're moving guys around. What I like about them right now, Ian, is their coaching staff is working to move guys around, find the chemistry. So first period over, nothing else for me on this game, just the first period here. Curious to see how this Islanders team plays.
Yeah, definitely. This might be something where if you want to jump on Buffalo first period, I could see that too, because maybe it takes a period for the Islanders, with the first game back from the break where Buffalo's played again. Buffalo first. I'm gonna.
I wonder what that both teams to score first period is for this game, Ian.
Yeah, I would say it's probably you can bet Buffalo here first period +160. I kind of like that. I mean, obviously a push if it's tied after the first period, but I think first period with them having played and the Islanders, having not, it could take them a period to warm up in Buffalo. After starting slow last night, I did hear Granato after the game say, we need to have a better first 20 minutes than we had. And you got to think that maybe permeates and resonates with them tonight in this game against the Islanders. So that first period look on Buffalo, I'm going to make that a play for me, +160, just given the situation here for the Islanders not having played yet. And by the way, if you're looking at Buffalo full game +1.5, it's obviously it's still too high for that. I wouldn't bet it. -160 +1.5 on Buffalo on the puck line. But it's worth noting Buffalo has not lost by more than a goal in their last 7 games. So they've been right in every game and had a chance to win every game as of late. So again, but it's just a little too high for my liking, -160 on that with +1.5 goals on Buffalo. But certainly would lean that way if you're interested in laying that big of a price. But personally, I'm not.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't line up in the sportsbook to bet on this Islanders team tonight. I wouldn't wait in a big line at the price we're getting. I don't think everyone seems to think they're going to turn it around right away. And maybe they do, and I hope I just cash my first period over in the process of that. But which team has more pressure tonight? It's not the Sabres.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the Sabres. That's for sure.
No, it's the Islanders. Islanders are in the mode right now where they've got to have one hell of a back half of the season here. They've got ground to make up. It's a very, very brutally tough division that they're in, of course. So they've got ground to make up, and it's going to have to start. And these are games you've got to take care of. Like, with all due respect to Buffalo playing better lately, more competitive. These are games you got to, if you're the Islanders, you still got to think we got to take care of business here in games like this home game against the Sabres if we're going to end up being a playoff team. All right, before we get to the last three games, DraftKings, official sports betting partner of the NHL, they have a no-brainer offer for you to take advantage of. It'll make you a winner once any puck finds the back of the net. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores. You know someone's going to light the lamp with no ties in the NHL since 2005. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. On we go. Calgary Flames, Seattle Kraken. Calgary minus 175 road favorites in this game, 5.5 being the total in this one. Seattle last night against Philadelphia, they lose in overtime. Just a fantastic individual effort in overtime by Provorov to get that goal and give the Flyers that victory in that game by a score of 3-2. Back-to-back for the Kraken. First game in 19 days for the Calgary Flames, more than any other team in terms of a layoff, because remember, this was the team that was hit hardest by COVID-19 prior to the Christmas break, where they had to have, a half dozen of their games essentially postponed because of the team outbreak that they had. And to see the Calgary situation pre-break to now, it's night and day. I mean, other than Dan Vladar, the backup goalie, Brett Ritchie, and Tyler Pitlick, everybody else is back tonight for the Calgary Flames. So it's all hands on deck. Monahan, Tkachuk, Gaudreau, Lindholm, Backlund, Mangiapane, Hannafin on the blue line. Everybody is back. Jacob Markstrom is going to be starting in net for Calgary. So they've essentially gotten through their COVID-19 crisis, if you will. And they are all hands on deck just about for this game against Seattle. So money's come in on Calgary. I mean, they certainly are the better squad. Now, Seattle's obviously played the one game. Calgary hasn't. Is that an edge for them? Maybe, but not enough for me to bet them here because Calgary is better. They're fully healthy. Lean for me would be Calgary here in regulation if I were to get involved in it. Again, they haven't played in a while. That's the one concern. It's 20 days, essentially, just about. You do get concerned that this is just a rough, sloppy, mistake-prone first game with that much time since the last time you took the ice, as a hockey team. It still might be possible, though, for them to beat this Seattle team with the way things have gone, though, for the Kraken. So, yeah, if I were to bet it, I don't love it, but Flames in regulation. Andrew, what do you think here, Calgary, Seattle?
And Grubauer actually played fairly well last night. Like I said, that first period went over. Both Alex and I cash, and the full game doesn't quite get there. It'll be Chris Drieger tonight in nets. He's been subpar at best. Look, I hate to be boring and quite repetitive, like a broken record here, but if you see a lot of 2-1 games here tonight, I had a bad night. Let's put it that way. I've split it up. I literally have a half unit on the first period over and a half unit in on the full game over in this game because I look at what I saw from Seattle, and I'll tell you. And I think you have to do this because you and I, we talk hockey every day. And even though I was on the opposite side and I faded the Kraken yesterday, I thought they played some pretty good hockey. I thought they created quite a few chances. I thought that Martin Jones played
actually
better,
very good.
yeah, than some people thought he would.
Yep.
And I was a little nervous going into that overtime. I can't lie, but I think we're going to see some goals on both ends in this game. So Calgary, they've got the talent. They're anxious. Let's be honest. They said they had lots of practice time. The coach's quotes are always great out of Calgary, as you know. But I mentioned earlier in the show, I don't always believe coaches' quotes. You know who I do believe is Sutter. That's who I believe his coach's quotes, because he's kind of like the Bill Belichick of the NHL. He's a man of few words, but he'll kind of
he's curt and he's short. Yeah,
he'll let you know what he's thinking. He'll let you know what he's thinking. So it's definitely a higher volume night. So I've got over in the Predators game, we've got the first period over in the Sabres game, and then we've got half unit on both first period and full game over in that Seattle game.
Yep. What I remember, there was one time they asked Daryl Sutter, "Coach, what would you like your team to do better the next time?" And he just said in one word, "Score."
Yeah.
And then he's got that peculiar look when he's looking around waiting for the next question. He's like,
it's almost like to tell the reporter, "You idiot."
He is hysterical. Just the mannerisms. It's not just what he says; it's the mannerisms when he's waiting for the next question. It's like he's all, facial expressions are hilarious. They're killer. And then there was another one too last year. It was with the Kings, actually, a couple of years ago. After a game like that, Coach, what do you tell your team after the game? Flight at 11. Flight at 11. Yeah. Just great. Daryl Sutter's one of the classics. And when he finally hangs it up for good, and look, I didn't think he'd be coaching again after the Kings, but he is here again in Calgary, emergency situation, and he obviously close to home too, to the world famous Sutter farm and ranch in Alberta, Viking, Alberta, where his ranch is. Calgary, very close to there, so it just made sense location wise for him to take this job, and thank goodness he did, because we get some more classic Daryl Sutter quotes and things like that.
One thing that's funny about the NHL, and even like obviously at higher levels of junior hockey and stuff, but people don't realize is that you're around these coaches a lot more than people think. And you don't have to talk to them all the time and everything like that, but some of the higher end beat reporters travel on the team plane. Athletic therapists travel on the team plane. Every single member of the team, or people that are even associated, play-by-play guys, sometimes get to go on that team plane. And the funny thing is that I've heard he's a hoot to be around. I've seen from different players and stuff like that. And again, these guys aren't talking to the coaches all the time. If you're off a bad loss, last thing you want to do is to be on the plane ride talking to the coach. Yeah. But he'll be a funny guy to have around, just because he has, especially when you're winning, he's got so many stories, and the expressions he has, like you said, I think I could sit next to him on a plane and have some good laughs. Honestly, I think he'd be a funny guy.
I'm sure there's no doubt about that, about his ability to crack up the room. No question. But he cracks up the media gallery a lot of times after press conferences with just some of these unexpected, funny little quotes. And you're right, the bitter wine drinking face, the bitter beer drinking face, that is Daryl Sutter oftentimes when you see him waiting for that next question in the press conference room, for sure. Philly and San Jose, as we move on here, we've got San Jose minus 165 home favorite, 6 the total in this game. Flyers on a back-to-back, beating Seattle 3-2 in overtime last night. So a little extra scheduling edge for San Jose. Rested team playing Tuesday in just an unbelievably wild game. 8-7, San Jose winning in a shootout Tuesday night against the Arizona Coyotes. I tell you what, they better play some better defensive hockey tonight. Will they, is the question mark. This is one of those games where certainly would lean. This is one of those first period full game over leans for me here, because you've got 4 straight overs head to head with the Flyers and the Sharks. We don't know necessarily yet who's going to be in between the pipes for the Philadelphia Flyers. Keep in mind, it's worth noting, Carter Hart's out still, and he ain't going to be cleared in time for this game. So essentially, if you're the Philadelphia Flyers here in this game, you're looking at a situation where your options are Martin Jones on the second of back-to-back games, or you turn to the 24-year-old journeyman goalie, Felix Sandstrom, in net. That's where you're at tonight for Philadelphia in this game. So very interesting decision ahead for Mike Yeo. This team continues to find ways to score. They actually are playing some decent hockey now under Yo. Let's give the Flyers credit. That's now 5 wins in their last 6 games. The only loss was a shootout loss to Montreal. So they've had a chance to win every game lately, 5-1 going into this matchup. Even with the question marks, Jones on a back-to-back or Sandstrom in net, man, I'm tempted to take Philly here at this price that you're being offered with this effort that you're seeing from them, that their defensive play is improving a little bit. The offense has certainly come back to life, playing with this pace-driven style of play that they've Mikey O's emphasized since taking over. So I'm certainly not laying it with San Jose. Philly or nothing for me in this game, and I like the first period and the over for the full game for small bets as well. Andrew, what do you like here? Flyers and Sharks.
Yeah, I mean, so James Reimer's been confirmed, right? I think I saw that.
For San Jose, yes, he'll be in net.
Yeah. You have to think you're going to get a better performance out of him than what you saw last time around. But I liked what I saw from Philadelphia yesterday. So, the funny thing is you either look at it like this: San Jose scored 8, good for them, or they allowed 7 to the Coyotes, who won't score 7 goals in their next 7 games. or you look at, a team like Philadelphia that won a relatively low scoring game recently, last night, obviously. Yeah. I like the way they played. I mentioned that Seattle, of course, had their opportunities. I like the way Philadelphia took care of things. And I heard someone say this the other day, Ian, and I don't always buy into this. I thought it was, they looked like they were having fun yesterday. And especially for a team with a lot of older players, you don't always see that. You don't always see the Trevor Zegras on the bench type laughs and smiles, with older players. And it looked like Philadelphia, they looked locked in, but those guys are having some fun out there. I think they're a better team than the San Jose Sharks, and I feel like they get the win again in the second half of the back-to-back. So I like them. Small play here for me, Philly.
Yeah, I mean, San Jose to me is going to level off. I know they've had to me, at least I think they're going to level off. I know they're 16-15 overall in the year, but I think you're going to see this team kind of not nosedive, like fall off a cliff, like just crash and burn. But I don't think they're going to have the next. Put it this way: they're 16-15. I don't think they'll be as 16-15 their next 31 games. I think you're going to see them probably a 500 or below, probably below 500. I just know long term, like, can James Reimer keep playing at eye level? Can the defense in front of them keep playing well? They rely so much on Couture and Hurdle and only just a small handful of these forwards for them. And eventually, I think the lack of depth showing up now, third and fourth line, worry about that long term for San Jose. So both of us kind of in agreement here. The more this line climbs on the Sharks, given obviously the situational edge, they're rested, they're at home, they didn't have to travel. Philly did. But still, even with that edge, I think the price is getting a little bit too high. We both think that on the San Jose side. All right, final game, Vancouver Canucks, Los Angeles Kings. The Kings -135, -140 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game here. Both of us enjoying this ride with the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, it was close last night. We thought maybe this is going to be the first loss for the Canucks under Bruce Boudreau, trailing 1-0 going into the third period. Yet a beautiful play in the neutral zone, and it's part of what Bruce Boudreau's emphasized. Quick puck movement. Move your feet, move the puck quickly. Do it quickly. Make a decision. And that's what led to that first goal. Beautiful puck movement. And obviously getting the puck up ice quickly. And sure enough, Quinn Hughes to Tanner Pearson ties the game. And really, Vancouver came to life at that point in the game and got it going. And of course, they won in overtime on the JT Miller breakaway, beating John Gibson last night for the 2-1 overtime win. 7 in a row under Bruce Boudreau. Just absolutely a terrific run. Both ends of the ice. I mean, the whole complete team effort is there. Offensively, defensively, Thatcher Demko, solid as a rock, like that old song. That's what he's been in between the pipes for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, tonight, we have Yaroslav Halak in net, and we shouldn't be surprised by that on the second night of back-to-back games here. And he has been shaky at times this year. Like, the numbers aren't phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination for Jaro Halak. And in fact, he's given up 3 goals in each of the last 2 starts that he's made against Boston back on November 28th and against Columbus in his last start. But they did win that game against Columbus 4-3. The Canucks did. So Halak in net for them tonight. You've got Jonathan Quick in net. And boy, what a crazy game that was for the Kings against the Golden Knights, especially in the first period of that game. We talked about Quick on the last show when the Kings played Vegas on Tuesday about how great of a run it had been for Jonathan Quick in December. But I think it was not all him, though. Some weird bounces, just some shoddy play in front of him, product of first game after the break. So you'd expect him to play a little bit better here in this one. Don't have a strong opinion on the total because we have seen Vancouver play good at the defensive end as well to go with getting timely offense. But I'm going to be on Vancouver. I am. I mean, it's just we take Vancouver until they lose at this point. That's what we've been doing, 7 in a row. And even on a back-to-back on the road, being in Anaheim last night, being in LA tonight, keep in mind, this back-to-back's not a big deal. You're just coming off a long break. This also isn't a big deal back-to-back because you don't have to fly. You don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to go to another hotel. Same hotel. Every team does it. When they make the LA-Anaheim back-to-back road trip, you stay in the same hotel. You don't have to go on a plane and travel to the next city. It's a bus trip down the freeway to get from the hotel to Anaheim last night or the hotel to LA tonight for the Canucks. This is not that, wow, what a tough spot back-to-back for the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Not a chance. Coming off the long break with no plane ride, just a bus ride from the same hotel. I mean, this is a doable back-to-back, in my opinion, for the Canucks. And we're taking them at the plus price. Andrew, what do you think here, Canucks and Kings?
Yeah, this is a play I didn't have, a bigger bet on, but I'm definitely in action. I'm on Vancouver, but again, it's not just because of the streak, not just because of Bruce. There it is. It's because of the matchup. LA played their worst hockey we saw all year long under them. That game, I think all of us we both talked about the over in that game, but I liked Vegas, and it was a cheap price. It shot all the way down to minus 125 somehow, and for about probably 52 minutes in that game, Las Vegas outplayed them big time. I don't think they can bounce back. I don't think they can, step things up. And the thing is, Vancouver played well defensively yesterday. You look at it, that practice time they had with Bruce Boudreau probably wasn't spent doing offensive stuff, defensive schemes. That's when coaches implement the new strategies they want to put forward. I'm not as much worried about the offense of this Canucks team as I am their defense. And if they can keep that up, they'll be a solid team for the future. So if they can shut down the Kings, which I think they can, despite getting some key guys back, I feel like they keep this streak going. And look at the price we're getting. Sign me up, man.
Plus 120 here on Vancouver in multiple spots. So definitely and like the Kings have not played great as of late. I mean, they've cooled off a little bit. That was certainly a rough first game back from the break. You expect them to tidy it up a little bit more defensively, but after that 6-3 loss to Vegas. But how do you step in front of this Vancouver freight train? And by the way, they've owned LA as well. 6 straight wins over the LA Kings for the Vancouver Canucks. So in terms of series history, it's been there. And look, Brock Besser, late scratch last night for Vancouver in that game against Anaheim. And he's been one of the reasons why, they've been able to play well during this win streak under Bruce Boudreau. He's in COVID protocol for them now, but no matter, they still found a way to win that game as well. So give the Canucks credit here in this one. Maybe tonight's the night, but I said that last night too, and they won. So we're just rolling with Vancouver until they lose at this point. It's been a great ride, certainly, in the first 7 games under head coach Bruce Boudreau. All right, great stuff with Andrew McInnis. We'll wrap up the show now with best bets on this Thursday. Andrew, Vancouver was your best bet last night. What do you got for an encore tonight?
Best bet. We'll try and make it 3 in a row here. Let's go with the over here. Nashville, Columbus. I think we're going to see some goals in that game big time. I think we're going to see a Columbus team that hasn't played in a long time here get on the board, but also make some sloppy mistakes. Nashville, I was impressed with them last night. Go down 3-0, score 3 quick goals, tie it up. Give me the over 5.5. Nashville, Columbus.
All right, Nashville, Columbus, over 5.5. Best bet for Andrew McInnis. Mine's going to be the team total, Carolina Hurricanes, over 3.5. Minus 145 to minus 150 is what you can find in that price range. I like the full game over too, and I bet the full game over, but I like the team total more. We're talking about just get 4 goals. Montembeault and the Canadiens have been giving up 4+ routinely as of late. And I think and Carolina had 5 goals in each of their last 2 games before the Christmas break. So I think Carolina gets there, 4 goals, cash the ticket, in my opinion. Carolina team total over 3.5 for my best bet for this
All right,
Thursday.
4-3
NHL
halves
play.
then. How about that?
There you go. Or 5. Well, it's got to be 4-3, 5-4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 5-4, 5-4.
There you go. Got to get that 4 spot for Carolina. But no, I think it's that's the bet that I prefer compared to say that Carolina and over, because I do think Montreal's effort was commendable the other night against Tampa with all this infusion of youth in their lineup. But definitely think Carolina gets to 4 goals here in this one, and we go over the 3.5 with Carolina, and 3.5 team total for the Carolina Hurricanes in that one. So that's my best bet. That'll wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it. The Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. By the way, actually, I just realized this now. Before we sign off, we do have a game that's going to start tomorrow, Friday, December 31st, before this show begins. It's 1 p.m. Eastern. It's Edmonton, New Jersey. Let's briefly talk about that. Edmonton minus 160, road favorites, 6 the total in this one. Just a gut feel with Edmonton losing to St. Louis last night. Obviously not a good first game following the break. I'm still not buying what New Jersey's selling, even after beating Buffalo last night. You got to think for Edmonton, let's bounce back here, play a lot better. I think that I feel bad for throwing one player under the bus, but that young defenseman Sarukov there for the Oilers last night was just hideous. He led to basically 2 St. Louis goals, bing, bang, boom, early in the game, and he barely played after that young kid. And of course, they've got some injuries, including Darnell Nurse on the blue line. So definitely, I think Edmonton, though, bounces back. The initial lean is maybe Edmonton in regulation here. Again, that's just an initial feel. We wanted to bring that game up since it'll be started before tomorrow's show. Andrew, just some initial thoughts on that game, Edmonton, New Jersey, tomorrow, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Well, I think a lot of credit to yesterday's game has to go to the Blues. I think they just capitalized. They played good hockey. Let's not we can't say that the Oilers didn't have their chances. And there's so many games on. You and I are both. We're trying to watch so many different games. I try, my best to at least pop on a game or 2 at a time, and then try and watch a couple different ones. But I think this is a good example for us to take Edmonton, whether it's regulation, whether it's -1, whether it's pairing them with another team, which is kind of a cool thing to do sometimes if you want to make a 2 or 3 teamer, because you have a game starting early in the day. Then you get kind of those options, whether if you build a ticket, you can cash out or you can hedge and all that different stuff. And I know some people don't like to hedge, but I like to make money. So you can start a ticket off in the afternoon and see where it goes. Try and find some dance partners. But I do like Edmonton to bounce back. And I'll be looking at some props for that. But obviously I haven't looked at those right now.
There you go. Yeah, just initial leans because we talk about every game this season in the NHL, and we didn't want to miss out on that one with it starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, by the way, Edmonton 6-2 in the last 8 meetings against New Jersey as well. So, and you get them, focused, and they don't think they take the Devils for granted after losing to St. Louis last night. So, yeah, I'd be looking at Edmonton in some form in that game. And with that, now we'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. For Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.